Well, now it is my honor and pleasure to introduce Monique Day, whom I've worked with one-on-one when we put together the Paradise Video Series website, which I'll post here shortly. But more importantly, Monique Day is the marketing director of On Target Digital Marketing, located in Orlando, Florida. For more than 13 years, she has been providing clients with strategic digital marketing campaigns that encompass many facets of digital marketing, including social media, SEO, SEM, paid advertising, content marketing, podcasting, and web design. During her tenure at On Target, Monique has worked with Catholic and private schools to create strategic marketing campaigns that bring awareness to the schools and increase enrollment. So without further ado, Monique Day, welcome on behalf of the Diocese of Venice. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. I'm really excited to be here with you today. I do have a presentation to go through with you. Our goal here today is to really talk about how you guys can stand out with your social media strategy. So I'm going to kind of make this a lot bigger so that everybody can see it. And we're going to run through this. There is a lot of information. I am going to warn you. Let's see if I can make this smaller. Let's see how I can get people to stop sending me text messages in the middle of this. And we'll go from there. Awesome. So our goal here, like I mentioned today, is to really show you guys exactly how you can stand out with your school's social media strategy. As I'm sure all of you are aware, I heard that a lot of you are in marketing positions. I know we have some vice principals and principals on the call here today. So really, social media has just built up so much, and it's really becoming such a strong part of our digital marketing strategy. And particularly with schools, there's a really big opportunity for us to be able to harness that social media to help you keep families, to help you retain those families, to help you, get more enrollments and more leads. And so that's really what we want to go through today. There we go. As John mentioned, my name is Monique Day. You might also see me as Monique Diefendorf. So Diefendorf is my married name. It's quite a mouthful, so you can certainly just go by Monique Day. I'm the marketing director at On Target. You guys might actually be familiar with On Target. I'm not sure who is actually involved particularly, but Tom Jomick, our founder and president, actually came down, I think it was about August of last year, and spoke with, I'm not sure who exactly, but I know spoke with a lot of the schools there in a meeting about really just general digital presence. So he is the owner of On Target Digital Marketing. And we are a full service digital marketing agency. As John mentioned, we're located in Orlando. And we really focus on search engine optimization, search engine marketing, content strategy, audio and video content like podcasting, which is really becoming popular these days, and of course, social media. And then as John mentioned, my background, I've specifically been in digital marketing for 13 years, more specifically with On Target for 13 years. And through that time, I've really been able to actually learn all facets of digital marketing. So aside from, social that we're going to talk about here today, I really have a lot of great experience that I can share with you guys as far as like how it comes together as a whole comprehensive plan. And then of course, as Linda mentioned, we are working with folks like Linda, we're working with individual schools. And so we've been actively working with both private and just general Catholic schools on their digital marketing strategies. So this is one of my favorite quotes that I wanted to share with you guys today. And so that is the essence of social media, is knowing your audience and engaging them in something they love. And when you think about how you can take this quote and apply it to your social media strategy, let's think about what your audience loves. And so your audience can be parents, it can be prospective parents, and they love their kids, right? We all know that parents love seeing photos of their kids online, and they love sharing it, and they love talking about their accomplishments. And that really ignites them, that fires them, that causes them to be engaged. So how can we take that and harness that to your advantage as a school to, again, help you retain those families, to help you get more enrollment, and to help you build more brand awareness? And so let's start by first talking a little bit about how do we define your audience? As marketers, as principals, as vice principals, you guys know your demographic for your school. You know exactly what that age range is, what that income range is, but how exactly does that apply to social media? So let's talk a little bit about getting to know your audience and how you can actually apply that onto where you're going to be spending your efforts on your social media presence. I felt like this is important for us to talk about here, which is defining our generation. This is probably basic information that you guys already know, but I wanted to point this out because in all of the schools and everyone that we work with, both private and Catholic school, everyone's so focused on that millennial. But I want to look at, we have so many opportunities from a social media perspective to look at that Gen X generation and to even start to look at that Gen Z generation. That might sound a little odd to some of us, because in my mind, Gen Z is like my 13-year-old niece, which she is, but I'm like, I wouldn't be targeting her. But at the end of the day, some of our older Gen Zers are at that point where they're starting to have families. And so when we're thinking about boosting up enrollment for our VPK programs or our early childhood education, we can't discount those older Gen Zs who are having those kids, who are starting to create those families. And then of course we have that Gen X who, you know, could be having children later in life, who may be looking for some of their kids to transfer. So we have opportunity there. So knowing what this demographic is, how exactly does that translate to social media? What type of individuals are actually on these platforms? So we can take a look at Facebook user demographic. So when we're looking at the general age range of who's actually participating on Facebook, who's engaging on Facebook, we're seeing a bigger audience for the Gen X and millennial targeting range. So if you are one of those schools who is really targeting and really looking after that millennial demographic, Facebook is certainly an opportunity for you to do some prospecting. And we'll go through later in the presentation exactly how you can beef up that prospecting, what you can do, and really how you can accomplish reaching this Gen X and millennial target demographic. Now, of course, as some of you may or may not know, Facebook is owned by Instagram. And so Instagram is sort of a different beast than Facebook. So when we're looking at Instagram or age demographics, we're really looking at that Gen Z demographic where we're having a higher usage. And so that's going to be a little bit of your student engagement, and that's going to be that VPK early childhood availability that we talked about. So it's interesting how the ages, you know, vastly differ as far as like age range, which Facebook and Instagram. And you can also reach that younger millennial. So that's sort of the next tier of our Instagram usage demographic. So really when we're thinking about what is the demographic for your school, you can come back to these slides, which I believe John is going to be providing to you guys. But you can come back to these slides, take a look at what exactly is my demographic for my school, and does it fit in line with my current social media? Maybe you haven't quite bit the bullet on Instagram, but maybe after seeing this data, okay, now we need to start thinking about how we can beef up our Instagram, how can we make an Instagram account, and really start to reach that target demographic. I also think it's important, and you guys all probably know this, it's really important to not discount that student engagement. So when we think about keeping students happy or keeping parents happy, parents are talking about their student experience, and it's sort of this like domino effect of really continuing to spread the word. So while we have a lot of engagement online, keeping that and keeping those students interacted can continue to help build the brand and build the positivity that you have around the school. So don't discount that student engagement. We absolutely want to make sure we have that. And Instagram is like the best place to have that student engagement right now. I am going to kind of ignore, just to let you guys know, TikTok and Snapchat, just because those are very private entities. I have a lot of other theories about TikTok, but these are some of the main platforms that we really need to be spending time on. TikTok and Snapchat, just sort of with some of their security reasons, I don't think that is something that's right for a school right now until perhaps some of these platforms get a little bit tougher security. So we really are just going to focus on these 4 social media platforms. Let's take a look at Twitter quickly. So Twitter has a user demographic that is also very similar to Instagram in that we have a Gen Z and a younger millennial demographic on Twitter. So certainly we have opportunities for student engagement there. In times past, I've actually seen that Twitter doesn't do a great job at converting leads. So it's more of a presence thing to make sure your brand is there. But I would actually put your focus in your apples on Facebook and Instagram. When we're thinking about LinkedIn, there's a couple of different opportunities for LinkedIn. So we're certainly reaching that millennial and Gen X target demographic. It's absolutely there on LinkedIn. But the key with LinkedIn is that people have a very specific task when they go to LinkedIn. They're looking for business help, they're looking for business information, perhaps they're looking for a job or a career. And so I think that's really going to be important when we're looking at, when we're looking at how are we going to utilize LinkedIn for our social media. I think the best practice there is going to be for prospecting. And so within prospecting, we can certainly have, content that speaks to registration and open enrollment. But I think that sharing your everyday activities at the school isn't quite the LinkedIn content platform. So keep that in mind as you're trying to strategize which platforms you're going to focus on. Should I be paying attention to the chats? Are you guys posting questions for me?
No, Monique, I'm tracking the chat, so you can just continue.
Okay, perfect. I was like, I don't know if that was my responsibility or not. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, now that we know our demographic, you know your school's demographic, and now you have an overview of exactly what the demographic looks like on your social media platforms. How exactly are you going to take this approach and make it a strategic approach for your social media? So I have a recommendation of sort of 3 tiers or 3 branches that you really want to focus on when you're thinking about how exactly do I approach our social media strategy. And so those 3 areas are brand awareness, communication and retention, and I'll tell you why I use that term retention, and enrollment. And so we're going to dive deep into all 3 of these and kind of talk a little bit about what type of content needs to be where, and exactly how you're going to approach these sort of 3 buckets of content as you look at your social strategy. So first, let's talk a little bit about brand awareness. In everything that I'm going to tell you guys today, the one thing I can't stress enough is high quality photos, visual photos. I'm not saying you have to hire a photographer for everything that you do, but just think about, how the photos are being taken, what they look like. I don't think you need to prop people up and put them into position, but just make sure, I'll give you an example. There was this one really great photo that I had for a school, and we wanted to use it so bad, but one student just had his shirt tucking out slightly. So some of those details that would make a picture perfect for social media can kind of get lost in how we're really trying to approach the brand and the tone and the essence of your school. So keep that in mind as far as like small details where possible as you're taking these photos, and just make sure they're good quality photos. Certainly look at implementing video. Video is so highly engaging on social media right now, especially given the givens of COVID-19. People are looking for entertainment. They're looking for something to watch. And as you return back to school in August or September, that's going to continue. People want that. They've kind of gotten used to seeing this activity from schools and seeing all of this social media being beefed up, that they're going to want to continue that. They're going to want to continue to see that. So a lot of schools I've seen have made a lot of really great improvements on their social media strategy while everyone's kind of away and we need a way to communicate with them. But keep in mind that we don't want that to stop. That's just going to continue to help your momentum as you look into the 2020-2021 school year. That's difficult to say. So just keep that in mind. And then look at opportunities for branded images. So in this example over here, the phone on the right, this lady actually did a video of introducing herself, and they actually have a branded image at the top with that. So they created a hashtag, Meet You Monday, and then they actually have part of their logo on that. And so don't necessarily think that you have to have a graphic designer on hand. There's a lot of really great free resources to help you kind of drop in your logo on a photo or to dress up your image a little bit. You certainly don't have to do it every time you post, But I think having some brand equity and putting some branding messaging onto your photos, I think is going to be key. So some of my favorite either free resources and or low cost resources are places like PicMonkey, Pixlr, Adobe Spark, and Canva. So be sure to look those up if you haven't quite gone down the realm of branded imagery and photos. And then when we think about brand awareness, we want to think about what exactly is the content type that we want to share for brand awareness. So that's certainly going to be news, achievements, and milestones. Maybe you got your blue ribbon, maybe test scores are up, maybe your team received an award for something they did. Really certainly highlight the school and highlight exactly what is the community like? What exactly sets the tone for your school? Because as parents are prospecting, they're going to be looking for that. They want to know that there's a sense of community and that there's a sense of accomplishment around the school. You can also certainly highlight your campus life. What are you known for? Community, athletics, technology. Maybe you have a one-on-one iPad or one-on-one laptop for particular grades. Make sure you talk about that and really highlight that area. That way, as people are looking, maybe they're really, especially now, right? Parents are probably looking for a bit more technologically sound schools, given how everybody had to adapt so quickly. So if you already have really great technology implemented, maybe start talking about that so that if we're in a situation like this ever again, parents and prospects know that your school is highly adaptable. So think about things like that. Given where we're at with COVID-19, what you can pull out, what you've learned, and what's going to benefit you. And again, that's really going to help talk about the brand tone and essence. And then the other thing that I'm really seeing is highlighting student and parent testimonials. And so, yeah, everybody can write a testimonial. I could write one for everybody right now if you'd like me to, real easy to do. But what would speak even more volumes is actually perhaps if parents are willing to or students are willing to, is to get some video testimonials. That would be absolutely great. And again, I mentioned video is so much more engaging on social media. So if you can get that video testimonial and we can pop that into social media, we are really starting to show everybody who's coming to your site, hey, Incarnation Catholic School of Sarasota, this is it. All of these people are talking about the wonderful things that are going on at that school. So take advantage of those student and parent testimonials to help talk about your brand and to help build your brand up. The next thing that I want to talk about is communication. I also refer to this as retention. And I think that this is important because when we're thinking about how we're going to retain our current families, which is important, we want to make sure that we do retain those current families. That should absolutely be part of our marketing strategy. We need to think about exactly what can we do to keep our current families in line as far as what can we do to keep them in communication? What can we do to make sure that we're fulfilling everything that they need when they're finding things online? We want to make it easy for them. Could they go to the website, log into Plus portals or run web, find the information? Absolutely. Could they hit Facebook and make sure, hey, okay, I know that, student parent teacher conferences are happening this week or whatever the case may be. Giving them some of that information and keeping them in communication is really key when it comes to social media. Wherever we can communicate with those current families and those parents are going to be key. Again, high quality images, whatever you can use and find is just going to be vital. I'll just continue to preach that because I love high quality images. And then when we're looking at content types, we want to obviously talk about open house or fundraising events, perhaps your gala, any other big details like walkathons or big events that are going on. We certainly want to make sure that we're communicating that to the parents. Any other school communication, maybe a reminder that there's no school on Monday for a teacher work day, whatever the case may be. And then this is an important one. So it's about leadership content. I see some mistakes that I see with school social media is they're posting content and they're not driving people back to the website. So social media is great. We want to engage people. We want to be able to communicate with people on that platform, but ideally we send them back to the website. And we send them back to the website to start digging more, to start learning more about you, to perhaps click on that schedule a tour button, or perhaps click on that phone number to contact you guys. So as you're thinking about your social strategy, make sure that you're including links back to thought leadership content, resources that are on your site, perhaps prayers or inspiration. We need to be driving people back to your site through social media. You don't have to do it every time. You don't have to do it in every post, but just be strategic in your thought of, would this be appropriate if I sent them, for example, if we're doing a tuition post, could there be more information on the website? Let's send them back to the website. Let's give them something to look and dig more. So that's really going to be important when we're thinking about keeping open those lines of communication and really keeping that retention with our current families. The next one's a biggie. It's enrollment. And of course, enrollment can do wonders for your school on social media. Social media can do wonders for your school for enrollment, sorry. And so enrollment is going to be important, but I'm here to tell you that enrollment shouldn't be the core focus of your social. And the reason why is people don't want they don't want that hard sell. They want to be sold to softly, especially on social media. So enrollment is going to be vital, but there's a very fine line of being too salesy on social, because that's not really the meaning or the purpose of social, right? We're just kind of turning it into this opportunity, and Facebook has allowed us to do that. So really taking a look at exactly how we can utilize social media to help us with enrollment. And so we can have content where we're talking about registration or open enrollment, again, linking back to the site. Perhaps we need to talk about tuition and scholarship information. I know one of the biggest stigmas around Catholic schools is that it's not affordable. So we certainly need to allow people who are coming to the school to know that they have options. They have financial aid, we have scholarships. Make sure that we're communicating that and drive them back to the website so that they can learn more. Use call to actions like private tours or virtual tours. I know some schools are offering virtual tours right now. I know a lot of schools are still doing actual tours currently. So make sure that you're offering those options and you're letting people know that, hey, you can come in, you can see our environment. I think this is going to change a lot when obviously we all get back into school next year. Right now, it is a little different with COVID-19, but as we look into getting back into school, I think this is going to continue to, operate in the same way that it has, pre-COVID-19. And you're really going to find a lot of opportunity to get people who are doing their research on Facebook to come in and want to tour and view the school. And then, of course, utilize Messenger. A lot of people don't quite realize the benefit of Messenger, but if you're on Facebook and that little message pops up and you can start a chat with them, you can actually really start to engage somebody very quickly via that. So if somebody just has a quick question, maybe they're a bit more comfortable with talking online versus taking up the phone and calling. Maybe it's a basic question. So I would certainly recommend that you guys utilize Messenger as a means to start kind of filling in that opportunity to get enrollment and to get leads. And then, of course, we're going to talk a little bit in a little later about paid advertising. And so this is really where you want to look at how can I put budget towards this. So when we're looking at brand awareness, when we're looking at communication, those are going to be organic social approaches. When we're looking at enrollment, we really want to see a return on investment for this. So how exactly can I put a budget to my enrollment posts? And what exactly can I do to make sure that I'm getting some of those leads and I'm getting some conversion? And like I said, we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. So this is another one of my favorite quotes, and that's content is fire, social media is gasoline. And so when we think about social media, as I just mentioned, we're really producing content, and we can certainly put gasoline to help fuel that fire. And so let's take a look now at how exactly, how exactly do I take what you've given me as far as a three-tiered approach or three-pronged approach, and how do I actually execute that if I either don't have a good social strategy or if I need help improving it? What exactly do I do now? So let's talk a little bit about some recommendations that we have for you guys. So the first thing would be is to assemble a team. As you guys know, I work with a lot of Catholic schools. I've even worked with some principals who feel it's best that they do this on their own, but I'm going to tell you now that can be overwhelming. And so there's so many things, and social media is such a fast-paced, moving entity that you need to do your best to try and build a team. For a whole entire school, it's almost difficult to have it just as one person. So assemble a team. See who you can find to help you at the school. And so when you start to think about that team, think about how your first step should be assessing your current social media plan, okay? Do you currently have a designated person? Do you think you need a couple of different designated people? Do you have a budget, right? So a good chunk of what we're talking about here today can take an organic approach, but you do need to think about a budget when we're thinking about enrollment. So do you even have a budget right now? Is that budget stagnant for the next year? Can you increase the budget? Where do you have options? And then what kind of resources do you have available? Do you have a photographer that happens to be on staff? Do you have perhaps a teacher that has a hidden talent and loves creative writing? Or do you have somebody like an English teacher who wants to help with creative writing? Think about where you can pull resources to help assemble a team. Then you also need to think about your goals. What exactly are your marketing goals? And how does that relate over to social media? So is it brand awareness? Is it having traffic go back to your website? Is it increasing enrollment and revenue? Perhaps it's social listening. I know a lot of people who come into social media because they really want to hear what people are saying about them. They kind of want to hear reviews, and they want to see exactly what is the tone, what's the reputation around their school. So that's important as well. So determine exactly what your goals are. Obviously, I think I could assume everyone's kind of interested in enrollment. That's going to be important. So of course, that's obviously going to be of high priority. Just keep in mind, as we talked about, sort of that soft sell, hard sell approach. We don't want to do that hard sell. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about your social media strategy. And then next, you certainly want to start to assemble your team, okay? So how big does your team need to be? Perhaps it's just 2 people, just one person kind of, ping-ponging off of each other, making sure, we have the pictures we need, making sure we have the content, making sure things are scheduled. We certainly talked about finding hidden talents within your team that you have there. I know that there are people who are kind of, in a school, you pull double duty. And so there are certainly people who, the art teacher might be taking photos. I will tell you that in times past, I think it's important to take a look at the team and make sure that they're equipped. A short story I'll tell you is that I did have a school that I worked with where a gentleman who was very technical had, an opportunity to help out with the social media. And the tone just wasn't quite there. It didn't match the school. It wasn't there. And so while he was being such a great help to the school, and he really helped keep that activity, the tone just wasn't there. And once the principal took over, which I don't recommend the principal doing as far as like trying to take on all of social media, but once the principal took over, the tone really started to take a different effect, and we started getting more engagement, and you really saw the difference. So when you're thinking about your team, make sure that you have the right person. Make sure that they understand what your school stands for. Make sure they understand your brand tone. That's going to be key to making sure that they're properly executing that message over social media. And then of course, with your team, figure out a structure. Could somebody be responsible for content or images or scheduling? Figure out exactly what that structure is going to be. That way you can help determine how you can split up that workload. Again, it could just be 2 people. If it's just one person, that's great. But kind of think about the opportunities that you have and how you can help disseminate that workload. So the next thing that you want to do is make a plan. I'll tell you that this is one of the biggest weaknesses that I see in working with schools in social media is really like a lack of planning. And I don't mean that in a way of, of they haven't thought about it. It's just, let's think about how we can plan ahead, right? So as we're coming into the next school year, let's certainly think about what things are coming up that we know we can already start to put on a calendar that we know are givens and they're going to happen. Now, I'm going to kind of laugh at myself about that because I'm pretty sure we all thought we had givens over the past couple of months. That certainly didn't happen. So things are obviously going to need to be changed and flexible. But in normal circumstances, right, we're pretty well set. We know the gala is going to happen here. We know we're certainly doing our fundraising event here. We're having walkathon here. We have testing here, right? So take a look at your school calendar. Again, that kind of all got railroaded a bit, but take a look at your school calendar and see what are some of those things that we know we can kind of already start to fill the buckets in our editorial calendar. And so the image that I have here is just a quick sample of an editorial calendar. So you can certainly do like the title, which could be, you know, I don't know what kind of testing you guys have now. It's not FCAT, but I'm so old, I'll use the FCAT terminology. FCAT testing, and then the topic could actually be, you know, a reminder of FCAT testing, what days and what grades. And so you can really kind of plug in some of those buckets that you already know. So my suggestion as you're looking into the summer is over the summer, think about that school calendar and think about where you can fill in those buckets so you can already have some really great pre-fob social media posts. When you're thinking about big events, you certainly want to be talking about those events at a very minimum of 1 month in advance. So make sure you're doing that. For internal school events, I firmly believe those should happen after they happen. So if third grade is going on a mud walk, we shouldn't be telling everybody that they'll be at the mud walk at 3 o'clock today. That definitely needs to be happening after, right? After everything is, we don't need to tell the world where our kids are going to be. So make sure though, if you know the mud walk is going to happen Friday, on Monday, have your person go to, hey teacher, did you happen to get some photos? We're going to post this as a throwback Thursday or flashback Friday, and we're going to talk about what the students learned at the mud walk and what happened. So think about those things and how you can actually, like I said, start to put them in your buckets to fill your editorial calendar. And that really helps from a planning perspective. That way you aren't sitting there thinking, oh, we haven't posted in a week and a half, we need to get something out. This will allow you to actually have some pre-fob social media posts in there. And then of course, with this editorial calendar, it gives people a lot of heartburn when I say try to plan out a month ahead where possible. So at the very least, try to do 2 weeks. Again, that way you don't have gaps in posting. That's really going to be key because we want to keep those posts constantly showing on people's social channels. So that's going to be important. And then of course, think about scheduling your content. So we have a lot of tools that we can utilize to actually schedule the posts. And that can be done through some tools like Hootsuite, Buffer, and Sprout Social. There are a ton of them. Those are just 3 of my favorite. So there's really not, you know, a set of like, you have to do this. All 3 of those do have free and or inexpensive plans that you can utilize. So take a look at that. If you're not used to scheduling your content, I certainly recommend it. That way you guys know what's going on and you don't have to sit there and be worried about it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about knowing some of the tips and tricks. One of the things that I see within social, and I'm totally guilty of doing this sometimes, which I'll confess, but it's taking your Instagram post and just hitting that ever so convenient button to automatically post it to Facebook, okay? That's a big no-no. Again, I'm so guilty of doing it sometimes, but that is a big no-no. And the reason why is because we want to make sure that we're actually utilizing, it can be the same content, it can be the same theme, but we need to customize it and utilize it per social network. And so you can see that if somebody posts something on Instagram, you utilize a lot of hashtags, and you should be utilizing a lot of hashtags. You should use a good 10 hashtags on Instagram. Instagram, people are searching through those hashtags. You can see here in the example, I did a hashtag Catholic school, and these are all of the posts that use hashtag Catholic school. So be abundant in your hashtags on Instagram and Twitter, but use them sparingly on Facebook and LinkedIn. So when you hit that automatic button and it goes from Instagram to Facebook, those hashtags aren't as intuitive on Facebook. Not a lot of people are using them to search on Facebook like how they are on Instagram. So keep that in mind. Again, you can have the same photo, you can have the same theme, You can have your content be similar, but don't just copy and paste it over to all social. It's super easy, and sometimes we can get into the habit of doing it. But it's important to make sure that we're being strategic and we're thinking about how people are going to actually be interacting on that platform. Create a custom hashtag. Hashtag go Bulls, hashtag go Stars, whatever the case may be. If you don't have a custom hashtag, start using that custom hashtag. That's going to be able to allow you to, as you're having events, as you're at the gala, as things are going on, you can utilize that custom hashtag. And now you have all of this great user-generated content. So it allows you to track that content. So you can say, hey, we're out here, we're at the gala, if parents are taking pictures, let's use, posting to Instagram, let's hashtag go Bulls, hashtag go Stars, whatever the case may be. And then now we have an opportunity to go and look back and see that content. And now we just have this like treasure chest of user-generated content available to us to share and reshare. So use that custom hashtag if you don't have one, and make sure that you are telling people about it so that they can continue to use it in your posts, and we can take that content and utilize it to your advantage. And then think about geographical locations. So are you in Orlando? Are you in Sarasota? Are you in Venice Beach? Wherever you are, make sure you're utilizing those hashtag geographical locations. It's also important to think about your character count. So Twitter is really the only one that has a character limit, and that's 280. Thankfully, when they increased it, they kept it. Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, they don't have a specific Twitter account, but just remember to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Nobody likes to hit that little view button and see a novel. It kind of deters people. They don't engage in that. So just make sure you're keeping your messaging short, sweet, and to the point. When it comes to images and video, particularly video, everybody, and I tell everybody, you absolutely need to upload your videos to YouTube and Vimeo, 100%. That's going to be good from a digital marketing perspective. You need to make sure you're getting in those keywords. However, when we're posting videos to our social channels and our social networks, forget YouTube and Vimeo. Post them directly to your social channel. So take that original video and make sure you're uploading it. Facebook has that lovely autoplay that some people get annoyed by, some people love. I love it. Facebook has that wonderful autoplay. If you upload it directly there, it will automatically play for you. If you upload a YouTube link, it's going to drive people away from your site. It's going to drive people away from your Facebook page. We don't want that. We want them to stay. We want them to be engaged. So while you absolutely should be uploading your videos to YouTube and Vimeo, when you want to utilize them for social media purposes, keep them directly onto the channel. That's going to be key. And then, of course, have fun with your content. Try a different content variety, maybe text, images, videos, links, resources, polls. People are liking to take polls. Make sure all of your events are being posted in your event section. Try your hand at Facebook Live. I know that this has probably actually gotten a lot more popular given our situation with COVID-19. We're seeing a lot of schools go live with their principals, really talking about things that are going on. So I think that a lot of schools are getting a little bit more comfortable and familiar with this because they're kind of being forced into it right now. But don't let that stop when you come back. Even though this is our way of keeping in touch with people, this is really just in general good social media practice. So as you go back to school next year, keep up with those Facebook Lives, keep up with those Instagram stories. Don't just stop because we're getting back into the swing of things. Keep up that engagement. That's the type of content that people are looking for on social media. Okay, so I did promise you guys that we would talk about boosting and advertising. And so really there are sort of two different approaches with boosting and advertising. So when we think about boosting, we're thinking about getting that brand reach and making it bigger. Some of you may or may not know, but Facebook loves to put restrictions on us. And so if you have like, let's say 1,000 page likes and you put out a post, only a fraction of the people are actually going to see that. So we certainly need to throw Facebook some money so that we can get our reach a little bit bigger. And so when we're thinking about boosting, we want to reach our brand bigger. And when we're thinking about determining about doing an advertising campaign, we certainly want to look at that as getting some tangible outcomes. So which one is right for you? That honestly really depends on your budget. Both of these are all very affordable options. You can do boost posts for events or open house or even achievements, or some things that you really want to call attention to, maybe Teachers of the Year, stuff like that. $25, $50 a boost. That's going to be smaller budget. You can pick and choose where you want to boost, and you can of course still pick and choose your targeting. So you can pick and choose exactly a geographical location that you want to target. You can also pick some interest targeting as well. It's ad campaigns that we're going to get into that require a little bit of a bigger budget. And these are where I'm going to recommend that you focus on enrollment campaigns. And so this is really where we actually can create advertising, and we can create the ad creative here so that we can have our messaging, we can have some great visuals. You can either have a static image, you can have it scroll through a couple, you can have a video. You have a lot of flexibility within the ad campaign. And so it really allows you to create a good, robust advertisement for your school. And you have a couple of different options that I really, really love for enrollment. You can either send them to your site where they can fill out a contact form and you can get that lead that way. Or there's also opportunities on Facebook where you can actually just fill out a form on Facebook and it'll get emailed to you on Facebook that you can actually then follow up with the lead. And so it's a really great way to be intuitive, to as people are there and they're looking through and they want to learn more information, they fill out their contact form, and that's a really highly qualified lead that you can follow up on. So it's important to think about opportunities that we have in these ad campaigns and how exactly we can stand out with, really making it a more intuitive approach to how we're getting interest from our target prospects. And then think about all of the different ways that you can target an ad. So some of my favorites, particularly for Catholic schools, are location, age, and interest. And some of those interests that are available on Facebook are Catholic Church interests, parents, education type like private schools. And one of the great things about parents is, when we're thinking back about potentially targeting that Gen Z demographic, you can actually target parents who have children of specific ages. So if you want to run a VPK campaign and you're really looking to target perhaps parents with children between the ages of 3 to 5, that's available. So you don't have to target all parents. You can actually get very niche and target parents of specific ages. So that's important to remember, that we have a lot of different targeting options on Facebook that we can certainly be available to us. All right, I'm almost done. I know I'm hitting you with a lot of information, but this is an important, absolutely important slide. And that is, okay, cool, Monique, thank you so much. You've shown us all this stuff. We have an approach. We know our tips and tricks. How do we know it's working, right? That's the key. So certainly utilizing all of the analytics that we have available to us is going to be key. Each one of the 4 social networks that we have analytics directly on their social network. And so this is going to give us insight into how people are reacting. Are people leaving, like unliking our page? How many people are liking our page? How many page views did we have? How many people have we reached? So on Facebook, it's actually called Insights. And then on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, it's specifically called Analytics. And so as long as you have those pages on those platforms, you're able to actually see exactly how your channel is performing. And then, to couple with that, you can certainly utilize Google Analytics. And so Google Analytics, they offer something called acquisition, which tells you, did I get traffic from my social media site? Did I get traffic from a referral site? Was it from the search engines? You can then see how much traffic your social efforts are leading over to your site. And that's if I'm on Facebook and you have that wonderful link that guides me back to your site and I click it. That's how the analytics is going to know that they're getting traffic from that social site. And then what exactly should you be paying attention to? So look at metrics like likes, comments, shares, engagement rate, mentions. Certainly look at your reach and your impressions. And then when we're thinking about enrollment, look at those conversions and leads. So if you're going to be doing an enrollment campaign, you're of course going to be able to have a cost per lead. My recommendation to you is on the other end of that. Just make sure you know if that prospective family converted. That way you can determine a true ROI. Within Facebook, it's really only going to give you that cost per lead number, but that's on you on the other side. Make sure you're tracking that. Make sure you know this lead came from Facebook, or make sure you know this lead came from the website. That way way you can determine a real, true positive return on investment for these advertising and for these social efforts. My last bit of advice is, above everything, be active. Social, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, is such an ever-changing, ongoing, social network that is constantly changing every minute. And if you take a break for a week and a half or 2 weeks, it can be tough to get that engagement back. So just make sure you're active, make sure you're responding to people's questions, make sure you're liking their comments, make sure that you're engaging with people. And I think that's going to be really important. It's going to speak volumes for your brand and for your school. And that was a lot, but any questions? Yeah, John probably has to unmute everybody.
Want to do that right? They shoot. All right, everyone's unmuted. Questions?
Okay, I have one. One of the things under brand awareness and under content, you said highlight certain things and about how we're adapting, because we've got a couple different views on that, and we're going to be promoting. Yeah, right. We're going to be promoting like small classroom sizes and our excellence in our education and all that kind of stuff. But you had mentioned something about like, look how we were easy to transfer back to like online learning. We had this seamless transition. We haven't really wanted to promote that because, well, why would I want to pay for private school versus when I can get it online for free? Although we've had customers or people transfer here for next year because they are interested in our higher education, better education. So I guess you'd mentioned that. Do we even want to approach that?
I mean, I guess, to be honest with you, I guess that's going to depend on your, I guess that depends on your individual school. I did have it's not a Catholic school, but it is a private school that got commended because they do so much with technology in their school, in their classrooms, that it wasn't really like it wasn't a big effort to go virtual. I will tell you that the school is adapting and is also starting to potentially offer virtual classes now in the next coming year. So I think that worked well for them, just to kind of show how they could easily stand up and be adaptable in a situation like this. But if it's not the right messaging for your school, then I think you would need to make sure that we're sending that right message. That if you do have the potential that people are thinking, oh, well, maybe Catholic school is not right for me and I want to go more virtual school, I do think you need to be aware of those potential downfalls before we do start posting something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, that was a pretty interesting scenario that my other client took. I mean, like I said, they are full blown offering now. They're a little different. They're a less traditional school, but they are now looking into full blown offering virtual schooling next year. So they really kind of changed their business model a bit for it.
Yeah, we're not wanting to do that.
No, I understand. I totally understand.
Like we were, we're technology based. We have iPads in our hands, and so it was a seamless process. And so we were kind of wanting to toot our horns, but then you also don't want to push people out the door. So it was a two-way process.
Well, I think that you can certainly talk about the benefits of your technology with like one-on-one or whatever the scenario is, but I don't think you necessarily then have to tie it back to our current situation.
Yeah. That's what we agreed upon.
Yeah.
Sorry, Monique, mind if I ask a question to all in attendance?
Sure.
This is just me. I'm just curious from the individual schools, because of COVID-19, has that changed, or how has that changed your social media presence at all? Or you're in any social media plan, has that made things more difficult, or are you more focused on something rather than something else? I'm just looking for general feedback.
It's made it more important because we have to keep our families connected and feel that we're still unified as one school. So the social media has taken on more importance than it had, I feel, than it had before all this happened.
totally agree with Debbie and what she said. It is very important to keep our families and community engaged because they're not on campus. So we're doing that through social media.
And then, and Monique, if you don't mind, I have one more follow-up question to that. You mentioned using certain software or certain sites like Hootsuite, Sprout Social. I use Hootsuite, love it. Who here uses sites like Hootsuite or Sprout Social to do a social media planning, making your plans and your posts and schedules using sites like that? Anyone?
John, I'll speak because I have experience using schedulers. But one of the things that you can actually do right inside Facebook on your page is schedule pretty much the same content, just right inside Facebook itself. So you don't necessarily have to use a third-party scheduler. Sometimes Facebook will throttle the reach of third-party schedulers who just don't like each other sometimes, or if something doesn't, for whatever reason, there's an API change or whatever, that could get messed up, or you wouldn't catch that quickly enough. So, an alternative could just be using Facebook itself. What I like third-party schedulers for, especially like I've used Buffer, is if there's particular content that you like, whether it's from an editorial or a newsletter, a news magazine, and you want to use that as part of your content, then you can basically set it up so you every Monday or something like that, or every whatever Friday there's a letter from the Vatican or something that lands. They're great for those kind of things as well, and not just your own content you put in. So.
Yeah, the other thing too is, and I'm sorry that I didn't catch your name, sir, but he was mentioning going directly into Facebook. So Facebook actually recently updated what's called their Creator Studio. And so that actually has a lot more capabilities than it did before. So that's certainly something that you'll want to check out. If you go to post a post, it's actually kind of like linked at the bottom where it says you can schedule and have other options. So take a look at that because they've certainly beefed it up recently in the past, and it could be of advantage to you all.
Excellent. Any other questions or suggestions, comments, anything that
Yes.
you heard? Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, I've got one comment. There's another. First of all, absolutely phenomenal presentation. I love, again, very actionable, very easy to go back and really, really. Thank you so much for doing that. One of the things that is also a massive advantage is on your school websites, making sure that you have a Facebook pixel embedded, almost like it's something like a Google tag, because that will allow you, when you come back and decide to do a paid campaign or maybe even a boost campaign, it allows you to start creating an audience of people that already like and know who you are, and that will increase the ROI of your marketing dollars. So again, probably not enough time to go real deep into that, but definitely explore adding, because that's an area most schools don't have it. I'm yet to put one on ICS on, but definitely look at that. Even if it's just a base tracking pixel, but you can start to really track what activity is going on your website, just like you would do Google Analytics. But this is using Facebook, and then you can marry that data and make even more powerful ad campaigns. So.